Welcome back to Later Today. It's unusual for a teenage boy to publish a book of poetry. It's remarkable if that book becomes a bestseller. But the most extraordinary piece of the story of Marshall Stewart Ball is that for much of his life, he was unable to communicate at all. Now, despite his handicaps, some say he's a genius.
I clearly think I really start to realize life's sweet, lovely, fine freedom freeze, like the will of the filtered sunlight through free, dreamy clouds.
This is the poetry of Marshall Stewart Ball, a 13-year-old who's unable to speak.
The doctors have never been able to give us an explanation of Marshall's condition. They believe it's probably some sort of metabolic disorder, but he's nonverbal and he uses a wheelchair to get around. This is by George Eliot.
From an early age, Marshall's mother, Troy, accepted that her son was physically disabled, but she refused to believe that he was mentally impaired as well.
We read to Marshall continuously almost, and there were flowers. We made a conscious decision to treat Marshall as if he were perfectly normal, as if he were understanding us, because, you know, perhaps he was listening to everything we were saying.
Throughout his early childhood, Marshall gave no indications that he was listening. Then, one day at age 4, he began using his head to push buttons on a toy.
And I said, gosh, Marshall, I said, could you push that button again? And he goes right back to the same button, pushes the button again. And I was like, wow, do you know where the dog button is? And he leans the other way and he pushes the dog button. And then he pushes the lion button. It was amazing. W. O.
By age 5, Marshall could write out words on an alphabet board. It was a slow process and required his parents' assistance.
That Marshall understands.
But what he wrote shocked his father.
The amazing thing is what came out of Marshall were complete sentences, complete thoughts, and the depth and the quality of the thought was astounding. You know, he used words that frankly, we don't use. One of his early sentences had a sentence has a word with juxtaposed, which, you know, I'm not sure I learned that till I was in college, and even then.
Marshall has 2 brothers. His brother Colton suffers from a similar disorder. His other brother, Luke, is adopted. Marshall wrote this poem for Luke.
Mercy should know our love for that sweet James Luke. Listen to my pure, clear, happy, free brother emerge, feeling joyous. I know I might dream of knowledge like sweetness that God shows in us in that pure, fine Luke.
Last year, a collection of Marshall's writings was published in a book entitled Kiss of God. To date, the book has sold nearly 200,000 copies.
So when Kiss of God was published, I think we were all stunned by the success of it. It's different. You know, Marshall's writings are his own and they're unique.
You?
But there have been skeptics who question whether Marshall's writings are influenced by the family members who helped transcribe his thoughts.
I think it's confusing to people because they don't understand if he's doing this and he's not got his eyes glued on the board, how does he know where that S is? Well, he's been using that same board for, you know, 9 years or something. He knows exactly where every letter is.
Marshall's parents also point out that their son's intelligence was evaluated by Dr. Keith Turner, a professor of special education at the University of Texas at Austin.
I assessed Marshall when he was approximately 4.5 years of age, and what I found at that time is that he was performing at about a 2nd to 3rd grade level.
Are you ready?
I was asking him at that time some multiplication problems, some 2nd, 3rd grade reading problems he'd read and figure out the answers. I would say Marshall is at the genius kind of level, that he has patterns of words and his grasp of concepts is way beyond his chronological age.
She has y equals x to the n.
Dr. Turner says that too often individuals who can't communicate are labeled developmentally disabled.
When you find a very gifted mind and challenged body, it is always a surprise, because professionals, psychologists and others want to read the body and then interpret the mind as being also challenged. So There's great discrimination against children that have challenged bodies but have gifted minds.
Marshall, your thoughts have deeply moved me, from tears of joy to quiet reflection.
Charlie and Troy say that the response to Marshall's book has been overwhelming, and they believe that their son has a special ability to see the world as few of us can.
I believe Marshall has a great gift, and I'm not sure that I can explain it except to say that I think he views the world in a different way because he lives it in a different way. R, daring. He seems to have a close connection to God. D, A,